when I was doing the research, I noticed something really interesting, and I want to say this in a very unfortunate, interesting way for the both of us. But I know this does somewhat lead into your album because where you're from, where you're based, do you pronounce it Sunderland? Is that it?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. You were the very first place when the polls closed to have voted for Brexit, right?
Indeed.
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. And
yes. Oh, okay. Yeah.
we were the very first, like the second the polls closed, they said, and Kentucky's in for Trump.
Oh, Sunderland prides itself on announcing election results first, and partly that is to do with like having something to be proud about. So the runners are there taking the ballot boxes to the count and getting it done really quick. And partly it's because, like, traditionally we have a really low turnout. It's like this is a slightly strange thing to be proud about because the turnout here is always so low. It's almost like saying, oh, we can do it fast because, people are to a certain extent disengaged. But yeah, there was a few disappointing nights for me.
Yeah, it's been that same, and that's sort of where I get, in a way maybe that from what I gather, this record kind of starts with that because here you are in a place that is speaking for you that is not your own voice.
Yeah, I mean, even just aside from Sunderland, I think one of the things with those results was just the idea that I've got people wrong. When it's something you don't expect to happen, it's not just that the unexpected thing happens, but like, oh my God, all of these people, they all voted for this thing that I kind of hate, that I find repulsive and inhumane in some way, without wanting to get too extreme about it.
No, right.
And yeah, like all these, I mean, after the Brexit result, I just walked around town doing normal jobs, just thinking, oh, I bet he voted for Brexit. I bet she's 100% Brexit. I can see it. Just thinking all these things and like, oh no, what has this done to my relationship to people? And after a while, it changes, and you start to see the nuance in why these things have happened. Mm-hmm. But the disappointment and a certain amount of the anger is still bubbling under.
Yeah.
Certainly, I mean, obviously the Trump presidency is going to, tick along for a while in whatever state of disarray it's in today. And Brexit negotiations are going to tick along in whatever state of disarray they are. So there's constant reminders that this happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then as an artist, I mean, here you are, you document these times on a global outlook, but you've in some way you've got to bring it into a personal one as well. Was that much of a challenge for you?
Not really. I mean, I can't remember when I first I had the urge to write a political song, but I realized quite early on that it has to be about you anyway. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to sound like preaching, then it has to be something which says something about you. And so for a song like Count It Up, where it's kind of about privilege, certainly about Western white privilege, but almost everything in that song is something that I could say that about me.
Right.
Where I can say, I mean, yeah, I just turn on the tap and there's a cup of water and I can give it to my kids and that's fine. And when I was growing up, my parents read me books and encouraged me at school. It supported me in so many ways, and so any good things that are happening in my life, I can't take sole credit for them. That doesn't make me I'm some kind of superhuman because I have all of these great things and I've written this cool song, so I must be incredibly talented. It's it doesn't really work like that. All of the circumstances, lucky breaks. The fact that me and Peter had each other is the foremost reason that we still make music, because I'm not the most sociable person. I don't think I would have been. My wife's just laughing her head off at me saying I'm not the most sociable person, while the cat sits on the arm of this armchair biting my arm. Everybody knows that I'm not the most sociable person. So without my brother, doing this with me, I wouldn't have ever been in bands. So yeah, it's just about how you take credit for things. So even though it's a really political song, really explicitly political song, it is totally about me. And that seems to be the only way to make those things make sense.
First time I heard that song, noticing that you've pulled off that great trick of saying something that, sort of has a dark cloud to it, but is above a really catchy melody. So
yeah, it's a good trick to use.
It is a good trick. But I understood what you were saying, but I'd never heard that phrase before. Count it up. Is that an actual phrase that's used over there a lot, or is that just something that you came up with?
Not at all. I mean, that is just a weird coincidence. I wrote the little keyboard riff on my son's keyboard. I didn't get him. We got him a little keyboard last Christmas. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to get him a toy one, but I wanted something where he could press the buttons and change the sounds if he wanted to. So we've got this little keyboard sitting in the corner of our room, and I was playing it on that. And he is obsessed by numbers. So while I was recording this little riff into my phone, he is wandering around in the background just shouting numbers, counting. So when I listened back to it, just like it felt like the song had to have the word count in.
Yeah.
So just like singing, oh yeah, count it up. That became something I had to write a song around because of this little demo with my son shouting 21, 22 in the background. So no, it's not a phrase. That's one that I'll credit to my 3.5-year-old son.
Yeah, but it works. I mean, suddenly it becomes that phrase that I completely understood what it meant, in this new context.
That's good. That's good. I mean, because when I was writing the lyrics, that phrase check your privilege. I really wasn't thinking of that. I wasn't thinking in those terms at all. And then when someone else hears the song and says, "Oh yeah, you've done a song about privilege," and I think, "No, I haven't." Oh yeah, I absolutely have. Yeah, that's exactly what it's about.
There's also a quote on the press sheet that says, "We set out to have a good time making this record in spite of everything." And I sort of find that really important too. I mean, it seems like you made sure that regardless of what you were writing about, you didn't want to go into this with that gray cloud over your head. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, me and Peter get loads of pleasure from making music, and making music is not a dark thing for us. Making music is playful and fun and challenging, but it's something we get loads of pleasure from. So it doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense, I don't think, for us to make a really gloomy record. This is us not finding a way to enjoy the pain, but just to battle through it, I guess.
And I'll go ahead with the other quote that I took from that too, is pushing in every direction at once to see how far we could go. What did that entail? Once you guys were in there?
Well, I mean that's it's something counted up. It's can we do a song that's really synthy and really straight and almost obvious? Almost obvious? Can we do a song that's almost obvious? Or it could be, can we do a song where everybody who's ever played with us is on the record? So the last track, has strings and trumpets and flute and a choir. It could we do a song that's really sparse and almost electronic, but is still within our palette, front houses. Yeah, it's just everything that we're interested in. Can we do it? And can we do it all and still make it work and still make it coherent to some degree? And that's the fun. That's the challenge for us. We both have musical ruts that we get into, but trying to force our way out of those that's what being in this band is about. Trying to force ourselves out of our own personal musical ruts.
Well, I mean, compliments because, I know you guys have more or less been a band with a small pause here and there, but, for well over 10 years now, and to still have a creative passion and a creative fire, is commendable, because a lot of bands, I mean, we know the trajectory, especially, you get started, you do your thing, and that's your creative and your creative youth where the fire is, and eventually you kind of coast off of what you're good at, and, every time there's a new field music record, it's something. I mean, there's always sort of a stamp there that that's field music, but it's a different journey every single time, and I guess that's one of the reasons I was always such a big fan of you guys. So
thank you. I mean, I hope so. I mean, I think the fact that we do occasionally take breaks and do other projects and do collaborative things, I think is one of the reasons that we can keep doing that. If me and Peter get a bit sick of each other, we can go and make a record on our own if we need to, and then you get to the end of doing that and think, oh, it'd be nice to get in the studio with Peter again. So yeah, being able to mix things up and not just really straight, make an album, tour the album, get back home, try and make the next one, and do it all again. Like, avoiding that has been the saviour for us, really. And with each like little project we do, whether it's like doing a little film score or a gig where we deliberately write for a completely different kind of ensemble, you know, all of those things give us ideas which feed into making field music records, which are kind of like, field music's like our straight thing. That's where we make normal pop songs, or our version of what normal pop songs are.
Right.
Just so happens that, you know, maybe the next record will be like covered in marimba or, you know, flutes like this one, or, you know, I just don't know. Like, it gives us a chance to be open to other influences.
Yeah, and it's not lost the importance of doing other projects separately, because, you know, as far as the history of rock and roll goes with a band of brothers, I think there are a lot of bands in the past that could have taken a little note from that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose like in a way, we are beneficiaries of how the music industry is right now.
Right.
There's no like financial imperative for field music to stay on the road, because you don't sell enough records or make enough money from touring to be like something which the record company's relying on for the bottom line. So as long as we can make records without spending too much money and go on tour without having to beg anyone for tour support, we can pretty much do whatever we like. And
that's incredible.
We can run our own studio without having to know how to align a 24-track tape machine, which I would definitely not be able to do. But I can put a few microphones up and get a decent drum sound. And the fact that we can do all of that stuff ourselves just means we're not beholden to anyone, really, and we can have like easier relationships with like our record label and our booking agent, who probably would like it if we toured a little bit more, but like he doesn't mind when we say let's come up with a different plan. You know, that we can do it in a gentlemanly way.
Right. And again, I say this as a fan, and I've talked to a few artists about this, and maybe this is because, you know, I'm 36 now and I go out a little bit less than I used to. But if my favorite bands, if touring less means more music in some way, I'm always for that. Like, oh, I didn't get to see it live. Like, that's fine, because there's something new around the corner that's going to happen. You know, I'm always for that.
I mean, it's a sad thing for us, really, that we don't let this. I mean, especially like because it's such a logistical challenge for us to tour in the States. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the UK, when people complain and say, but you're not coming to my town. It's like, yeah, but we're coming to a town like half an hour drive away.
Right.
In the States, it's not like that. So, oh, well, you know, we're going to go and play in, I don't know, New York and Chicago.
Right.
There's an awful lot of country in between those places. And it's disappointing for us that we haven't figured out a way to do it. You know, when we couldn't afford to kind of like come over in batches, and you know, we've got kids and family, and we're a little bit too old to hit the road for weeks and weeks.
Well, luckily, I mean, you know, we have like things like you know, Facebook Live and virtual reality and everything. So, you know, if the camera's turned on. Yeah.
Our next show is like our hometown show the day the album comes out, and we're going to try really hard to make a good film of that show. And, you know, for all of those places that we never get to, like Louisville, hopefully that would be like some representation of what we do. But I mean, I'd love to come to Louisville, actually, but partly because I did an album years and years ago and it came out in the States on Thrill Jockey, and there were so many of the bands from Thrill Jockey had some kind of Louisville connection, and it really seemed like there was a real rapport between this Chicago post-rock scene and well, I mean, you know, not even to mention bands like Slint, but at least one of the members of 11th Dream Day was from Louisville. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that they all just talked about Louisville as if it was like a character in their lives. So one day, maybe.
One day. Well, the doors
when
are
the
always
kids are
open.
at school properly.
Yeah, no, the doors are always open if it ever happens, and I do understand, you know, the plight of the musician and budgets and all that. So again, as long as you're making music, I'm happy. But if you get in this side of the country, please do stop by.
I'd love to. Mm-hmm. We'll definitely stay productive. That's the main aim. Yeah. If we can't tour everywhere, we'll just be in the studio making something.
Well, David, thank you so much again for taking the time today.
Real pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Take care then. Bye-bye.
Bye.